I never believed in monsters. Growing up in Dover, Massachusetts, people whispered about strange things in the woods, but I always thought it was just small-town folklore meant to scare kids into staying out of trouble. The nights here could be unsettling, mist curling over the rocks, owls calling from the trees, but I chalked it all up to imagination. That was before the night I saw it, before the night I came face to face with something that doesn't belong in our world. Something people here call the Dover Demon. It was late April, a damp, restless evening when the air felt thick enough to choke on. I was walking home from a friend's house, cutting through the back roads like I always did, the pavement shining under the streetlights after a fresh drizzle. I remember the silence most of all, not the usual quiet of a small town at night, but an unnatural stillness, as if the woods themselves were holding their breath. No crickets, no rustling leaves, nothing, just the sound of my own footsteps echoing louder than they should have. That's when I saw movement near a stone wall lining the road. At first, I thought it was a stray animal, maybe a raccoon, maybe a dog. But then it stood up, and I realized it wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before. Its body was thin, unnaturally so, with skin the color of pale sand, almost glowing under the moonlight. The head was huge compared to its body, bulbous and smooth, with two enormous eyes shining like orange marbles. They didn't reflect light the way animal eyes do. They radiated it as if something inside them was burning. Its limbs were long and spindly, ending in delicate fingers that clung to the rocks of the wall. It didn't look human. It didn't look animal either. It looked wrong. For a moment, we just stared at each other, frozen in place. My body screamed at me to run, but my legs refused to move. I felt pinned by those glowing eyes, like it wasn't just looking at me, but through me, peeling me open in ways I didn't understand. Then, with a jerky, spider-like motion, it climbed over the stones and crouched low, crawling across the ground on all fours. Its movements were silent, too smooth, too deliberate, like a shadow slipping across the earth. My heart hammered so hard I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. I took a step back, gravel crunching under my shoes, and the thing froze. Its head tilted, not like a person would, but in a slow, deliberate swivel, as if it were studying me. I wanted to shout, to ask what it was, to demand answers, but my voice caught in my throat. My hands trembled, and every instinct screamed that I was in the presence of something I was never meant to see. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it scuttled back into the trees. Its thin body disappeared into the undergrowth without a sound. The woods swallowed it whole, leaving me standing there, breathless and shaking, convinced I had lost my mind. But I hadn't imagined it. The air where it had stood still felt heavy, charged with something unseen. And when I finally managed to run, sprinting all the way home, I knew deep down that I had crossed paths with something real. Something ancient, something no one would believe. That night was only the beginning. The Dover Demon wasn't just a story whispered in the dark. It was here, alive, watching. And I knew it wasn't finished with me. I don't know what possessed me to go back. Maybe it was pride, maybe fear. Maybe just that gnawing itch in my brain that wouldn't let me sleep without answers. After what I'd seen crouched on that stone wall, most people would have packed up, left town, or buried the memory deep enough to rot. But not me. No, I had to know if it was still out there. The following night, armed with nothing more than a flashlight, my father's old binoculars, and a stupid kind of teenage bravado, I drove back along Farm Street. The night felt heavier than usual, like the air itself was pressing down on me. Even the crickets had gone silent, and that silence was worse than any sound. I parked the car near the same bend in the road, killed the engine, and sat there with my hands locked on the wheel, watching my breath fog up the glass. The woods seemed to breathe. The branches shifted, but there was no wind. The underbrush crackled, but nothing moved, and then there it was again. Perched on the rocks, crouched low like it had been waiting for me, the Dover Demon. Its pale, almost glowing skin reflected the weak beam of my flashlight, and those orange eyes burning like embers snapped onto me. I froze, my legs turned to stone, my chest locked up, and for a moment I couldn't even blink. That thing didn't flinch, it didn't scurry or run. It just stared like it was peeling me apart layer by layer, looking for something inside me. I whispered, "What the hell are you?" but the sound of my own voice betrayed me. The demon tilted its head slowly, deliberately, as if it was mimicking me. Then, in one impossibly fluid motion, it slipped down from the wall and into the brush. I couldn't stop myself. Against every ounce of survival instinct screaming in my skull, I grabbed the flashlight and followed. The beam shook in my trembling hand, cutting across branches, wet leaves, and shadows that twisted into shapes my mind didn't want to process. The deeper I went, the colder the air became. And then I heard it. Not footsteps, because the demon didn't move like that. More like a dragging, a whispering slide over earth and roots. Every few seconds, I'd catch a glimpse, that pale body gliding just out of reach, its long fingers curling around a tree trunk, its head swiveling toward me with those glowing eyes. It wasn't running from me. It was leading me. When I realized that, it was already too late. The woods opened into a small clearing I'd never seen before, though I'd lived in Dover all my life. A shallow stream cut through the middle, and across the water, perched like some grotesque gargoyle on a fallen log, the demon crouched and watched. For a long and bearable moment it didn't move, and then it pointed. Its long, spindly fingers stretched out, trembling slightly, aimed at the ground right in front of me. I hesitated, my stomach churned, my body screaming to run, but I dropped the flashlight beam lower and nearly vomited. There, half buried in the mud, was a small, mangled carcass, not an animal I could recognize. Bones that bent wrong, flesh that looked too thin, too human, but not quite. The skin was stretched tight like wet parchment, and the eyes, God, the eyes were the same as the demon's, orange, glowing, even in death. I stumbled back, gasping, nearly dropping the light, and in that instant the demon hissed. Not a scream, not a growl, but a sharp, piercing hiss that rattled my teeth. It leapt into the trees and was gone, leaving me alone with that thing in the dirt. I didn't take it. I couldn't. My mind wouldn't even let me consider touching it. Instead, I ran. Branches tore at my face, roots snagged my feet, but I didn't stop until the glow of the road lights hit my eyes. I collapsed against the hood of my car, chest heaving, throat burning, and for a long time I couldn't move. That night, when I finally made it home, I locked every door, every window, and left the lights on until morning. But even in the safety of my own room, I couldn't shake the feeling. That image burned into me, the demon pointing, the twisted corpse in the mud, and those eyes staring from the dark. And the worst part? I knew it wasn't a warning, it wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. I don't know how I managed to sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again, the pale figure crouched on the stone wall, its long fingers curling over the rocks, its head turning in an unnatural, insect-like motion. My heart would jolt awake before I even realized I'd dozed off. By morning, the whole town was buzzing, Dover was small, and word traveled fast. When I stepped into the diner for breakfast, I overheard whispers. "Did you hear about Bill's story last night? They're saying he saw something strange, some kind of monster." I wanted to laugh it off, but the weight in my chest told me there was nothing funny about what I'd seen. A few of the kids teased me, calling me crazy, but a couple of them avoided my gaze entirely, as if they didn't want to know the truth. That afternoon, I retraced my steps with a flashlight and a camera I borrowed from my father. The wall was still there, quiet and empty, the woods stretching behind it like a black mouth. I tried to tell myself it was over, that it had been some trick of the light or an animal I didn't recognize, but the unease in my gut said otherwise. The next night, I went back again. This time, I wasn't alone. A friend of mine, Paul, had heard enough of my story to get curious. We parked his car near Farm Street and started walking with our flashlights cutting thin beams through the trees. At first, it felt like any other night walk, the sound of leaves underfoot, the occasional chirp of a cricket. But as we neared the wall, everything went still. No insects, no wind, no movement, just silence. "Do you feel that?" Paul whispered. Before I could answer, my flashlight flickered. That's when I saw it. Across the road, perched low in the brush, were two enormous orange eyes. They didn't glow like an animal's eyes. They burned. I froze, my hand trembling so badly the light shook. Paul swore under his breath. "What the hell is that?" The creature stepped forward, and my stomach dropped. It was exactly the same as before. Thin body, spindly limbs, skin stretched tight over its bones. Its head looked too big for its body, smooth and pale, with no hair, no nose, just those eyes. It crouched low, watching us, and for a moment I thought it was about to leap. My legs turned to stone. Then, just as quickly, it darted off into the woods. The speed was unreal. We ran back to the car and peeled out of there. For the next week, I barely left my house, but reports started coming in from other kids in Dover. Some said they saw a pale figure crossing the road late at night. Others claimed it tapped on their windows. One girl swore she saw it crouched by the river, staring into the water. The police got involved, but they didn't find anything. They wrote it off as mass hysteria, but I knew better. I'd seen it twice. One night, I woke to scratching at my window. My room was on the second floor, so at first I thought it was a tree branch. But when I pulled the curtain back, my heart nearly stopped. There it was. The Dover Demon. Its face was pressed against the glass, those glowing orange eyes burning into mine. Its long fingers scraped against the window pane, leaving streaks. It tilted its head, slow and deliberate, like it was studying me. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. For what felt like forever, we just stared at each other, me paralyzed in terror, it silent and unblinking, and then, suddenly, it was gone. I never saw it again. Some say it disappeared forever. Others believe it still wanders Dover, slipping between the trees and watching from the shadows. As for me, I still dream about it, the eyes, the hands, the way it moved. And sometimes when I wake up, I swear I hear faint scratching on my window. So if you ever find yourself driving down Farm Street in Dover after dark, keep your eyes on the stone walls. Because once you've seen the Dover Demon, you'll never forget it. If this encounter haunted you, hit like and subscribe. What do you think the Dover Demon really was? Drop your theories below. Would you have looked closer or run? Subscribe for more cryptid encounters. Because somewhere in the darkness, it's still watching.